AI is not a solution for everything. It is more of a tool that allows your folks to upskill and deliver great service. So if you win that lens, AI will allow us to make some great products, allow it to be a bit more efficient. If you think it's going to take care of replacing your whole team or there's no need for CX work. I pity the folks that will learn a lesson. Support function, CX function is now like being taken as a career path. What I'm noticing in our industry is that a part of a support organization are doing QA work, like actual QA work, actually pushing things to prod. That's usually those type of tasks are under the product and engineering department. These are responsibilities within the support organization.
Hi, Steve. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I've been excited.
Steve, tell us who you are and what you have been focusing on these days.
I am the lucky father of two awesome kids. I wouldn't say I know how to be a father. I'm learning how to do that by day. That's the fun stuff, and what allows me to take care of my folks, and which is essentially my craft, is being a CX leader. Been in the space for I say above 10 years. B2B SaaS has been my thing, and I've noticed I've been specializing in fintech. I tend to join an organization at important point in our growth when they're trying to, I guess, get that corporate maturity, get that civilization going. And they put me in to make sure that their CX function is a bit more mature and a lot less fighting fires, which we still do on occasion. That's just the nature of what we do, right? Regardless of what organization you are. But that's where I tend to come in and then help functions get more mature.
Thanks for sharing that. Steve, when I speak to you, you come across as someone who really values the human relationship a lot. And it kind of shows into the way you present yourself and the way you talk about the work that you do. As a CX leader, what is a metric that you focus on the most?
I love this question. If I would be honest, early in my career, that's something I wasn't thinking about. I was focused more about my CX metrics, like average send, like first response, all that stuff, which is great, which was things that we need to measure. And then as you continue to have this conversation with different verticals and departments, your peers in an organization, you talk to them about those metrics, like, cool, I guess it's good or bad, but it doesn't really equate to what they're doing. It doesn't equate to what the organization is doing. And so my shift, and I've noticed I get more heads turning more into in agreements, I start to talk about dollar amounts. And so this is a metric that I'm currently working on. I'm pretty sure other folks in our space are probably working on a version of this. Is what I'll call the CX upselling cost, and it's associated to a dollar amount. So it's by tiers. So essentially, you it as you take one of our metrics, let's say CSAT or NPS or CES, and equate it by tiers. What's the cost of good service and what's the cost of bad service? And what does it do in terms of growth? So that's how I would go about it. So that attaches it to a dollar amount. So when you have this conversation with folks, or perhaps in marketing or product or sales, you're able to say, hey, what I'm doing here, here's a dollar amount associated to it. And okay, so what CX is doing is actually related to a dollar amount. Okay, then people start listening. Okay, and the conversation become a bit more about what do we need to implement this? There's a dollar amount associated with this. What does it do in terms of good service, or what's the cost of that service? And so people start understanding, okay, if we do things correctly, we start to applicate CX in product conversation or sales conversation at the beginning of the sales cycle. If we do things correctly, implement a solution correctly, then we diminish that bad service cost.
And who doesn't like to talk about dollars, right? When you take that approach, I would love to understand, how does that translate to the agents that are part of your team? How does that translate to the work that they do? How does that really impact in terms of the service that they provide to the end consumer? And one of the things that I think we were having a chat on before is how the role of an agent is changing inside a contact center.
Another wonderful question. A lot of layers here. So the first part, the way I would put it is that I've noticed a lot of us in our space, and I'm very guilty of this. It's thanks to folks like Rob in our space and Sarah Caminetti and Charlotte in our space that have very much, and Mercer as well, that have allowed me to shift a bit my way of thinking. I've always had a hard time, I guess, sharing the value of what the CX org is doing in terms of concretely what it does. And so when it comes to a business decision coming from the top down, that affects CX, I wasn't properly advocating, or maybe I was, but not in the way that was best retained by my peers and leadership upscale, right? And so when I started to do the shift in terms of tying it into our dollar amount, people understand, okay, now there's a focus, there's a spotlight on why certain initiatives are pushed more than others in the CX space. That translates to um, our agents not being burned out anymore because like okay we're being heard. It's not like I'm actually flagging these things like 3 or 4 times, 10, 20 times, and nothing happens. But now that things are happening because people understand there's a dollar amount to these decisions not being going through and what prioritize. When we flag like hey, this there's a risk dollar amount, what does it equate to us if we don't implement this feature or focus on perhaps these 4 3 escalating tickets? What's the cost of losing this client? Oh yeah, this is a tier 1 client, brings in, let's say, ARR is, let's say, 3 figures or 6 figures. There's a risk factor there. So now we're able to have our agents reduce that burnout aspect. We then allow our folks to be a part of broader organizational conversations with product, engineering, ESM, sales, and then that broadens the scope of career path for our folks, right? And so our folks are understanding like, oh, okay, I'm just an entry level because now with, as you know, the entry of AI and things of that nature, a bit more um, technical, not technical, the area of entry is elevated in terms of the workforce. And so now we have support folks, not just leaders, to understand numbers, to understand the technical background of things, to understand the sales cycle a bit more, to understand the QA cycle. So that allows our folks to then have a broader range of what's happening in the organization and understand what things are done. And so we understand a bit more what needs to prioritize, and we're able to with the context behind of why certain things are more priority, certain things are Q2, Q3, and so it's important. So now with AI, I've noticed we talk about this a lot that we're noticing folks, not just in our space, across marketing, sales, becoming a bit more, um, I guess, for lack of a better term, technical. Let's put it that way. So it's making from, and I foresee us create some pretty interesting product with not just the insight from support, but from us working all together at the same time. What other rules have we done aside from support? And you'll notice, in my experience, folks that have a variety of roles tend to thrive in support, especially right now with these new tools that we're implementing and create products are about to be built all
Amazing,
the time, all the
amazing.
time.
So if someone is to interview for a support position today, what would be your recommendation in terms of preparation and the kind of skill set that they need to have in order to really do well in these careers?
Great. I love this question. Charlotte Ward had made a comment on LinkedIn recently, and a lot of my colleagues as well in the space are noticing this trend as well. Support function, CX function is now like being taken as a career path, not just like, hey, I'm just gonna go here and allow me to pay bills or yada yada, but you can make an actual living and grow your skill set and become a sufficient CX professional. So that's amazing. What I'm noticing in our industry is that, and I'm glad this is happening now with great tools like with our AI stuff, is that we have folks that are part of a support organization are doing QA work, like actual QA work, actually pushing things to prod, actually reconciling records, like the other position, which was essentially the API specialist within the organization. That's usually those type of tasks are under the product and engineering department. These are responsibilities within the support organization. So that's very, very interesting. And then in terms of what we're looking for hiring, I would say folks and preparing folks that have a wider understanding of business economics. Not saying that you have to be an MBA if you're able to understand what's happening and why tech companies, especially in our space, are moving so quickly or slowly or hesitant to make decisions. You're able to understand a bit more what's happening, what drives them. So you're able to tailor the experience once you're on board to the needs of your audience, to the needs of your folks that you serve, and to the needs of leadership. So I'll say somebody who's versatile, understands business, has multiple backgrounds, and touches a lot of things.
Amazing. And I'm excited by what you said there because we went from doing QA to 1 to 2% of the conversations to then going after tools that were doing 100% analysis of the conversations to now shifting those kind of skills in house where you have people who come in with that skill set and can get the APIs, build that pipeline, pull in the
Yep.
conversations, and do this myself as opposed to going in and paying $25 a seat for some other tool. That's your data. You should be able to crunch your own data. Right? So, last part of our conversation and question: what is a book or CX news that excites you the most? And tell us why.
Great. Man, you have some great questions. I love this. A book that I keep reading over and over again is by Mercer, the building a customer support team that your customers actually love. I bought a copy. I have written down my notes. It's super, super helpful. Mostly there's a gold line stuff in there. The thing that sticks out a lot to me, especially in this AI world, and Kenji talked about it a while back, is I'm going to butcher how they both say it. So apologies, but the sentiment of AI, but if you're using AI to emulate or outsource empathy, you will still lose. AI is not a solution for everything. It is more of a tool that allows your folks to upskill and deliver great service. So if you win that lens, AI will allow us to make some great products, allow it to be a bit more efficient. But if you think it's going to take care of replacing your whole team, or there's no need for CX work, I pity the folks that will learn a lesson. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. If people want to discover you, get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah. If you want to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm trying to be as active there, and I also have my own blog there. I talk about CX and how to create some great organization, regardless of size, on medium.
Thank you so much, Steve. Truly appreciate your time. There is a lot of insight in our conversation that people can learn from. We'll talk to you soon.